There it is, y'all. Sunday, so no better time to have Sunday Night Teacher Talk, because if we had it on Tuesday, then it would be dumb. That was Sunday Night Teacher Talk, just like that joke was. What's up, everybody? So glad that you're here. And I don't just say that, right? Like, there's so many people. Even when I was out speaking yesterday in Normal, Illinois. What a town for me to speak in. I spoke in a place called the Normal Theater. And the irony's not lost on me, gang, how, I'm a weird dude. And the fact that I was speaking in somewhere called the Normal Theater wasn't lost on me. So anyway, I'm greeting everyone. I had to, I always make sure I stop folks and tell them, I'm not just saying that. This is incredible to me that I get to do this work. I get to show up and do this thing every Sunday, that, we're a part of this together, that people actually show up and they're giving their time, effort, and energy to pour into themselves to rejuvenate, and then pour into people that are that don't even know that they're watching this. So I just think that's incredible. I mean, even I got a message last night. I was in the airport from a teacher, and I'm going to forget the name, but you'll know I'm talking about you. A teacher from Sweden that sent me a message about an issue, and then we were going back and forth about engagement games and things of that nature. It is. I told him in the message also, you just don't know you don't know what you're doing, where that stops, where the ripple effect stops.
Absolutely.
And that's the same for teachers. You just have no idea where your influence stops rippling out. And that's why we do what we do. So listen, with that, if you are new here, you can jump in, put a question in the chat. Don't forget to if you put Q or question before, it just lets us know that you're there. And then I'll answer anything. Could be life, could be education, because look, what we're trying to do here is not just be really good teachers and have great classrooms. We're trying to have great lives as well. So with that, do we have a question, or can I say something real quick?
We only have one question, but you can go ahead and say something.
Cool. So look, we are we're enlarging. So if you don't know, on my shirt right now it says Rules to Engagement. This is my new TV show that I'll be heading up with three friends. My friend Shivy Brooks, with Principal Mo, and with Alexia, who's known as the dancing teacher on Instagram and TikTok. We are filming, I think it's Saturday and Sunday. I think it's March 22nd and 23rd. So not this coming weekend, the following weekend. We are shooting 5 episodes over 2 days. There will be legit celebrity guests on there. There will be Instagram, TikTok, kind of teachers who are famous on social media platforms on there. There's going to be games and sketches, and it is a real TV show. I think we're now bringing on a DJ to DJ in between all segments and stuff like that too.
Wait, Principal Mo's not going to do it herself?
I think
it's too much to do.
I think it's another thing to do. So she's definitely going to show her skills, but in between that, what we're also going to do is, even if you can't make it to the show, we're going to do a meetup. So we're going to do kind of a drinks and apps kind of thing. Everyone else will be drinking, but if you don't drink, you can just hang with me and we'll just drink Topo Chicos and ginger beer. But we're going to have a meetup afterwards and things like that. So it's going to be a full experience, right? Pictures with folks, giveaways, all kinds of stuff. So if you can come through, I'm
having FOMO.
I know we really need to figure out a way to get you there.
I know.
It is going to be so great. If you want to come, we have free tickets. There's nothing asked of you. You can just show up, enjoy it. If you want to sit through more than one taping, you're more than welcome to do that. I think we have 30 seats is all of the space will allow right now. And then we're going to test that and see if we can add more later. 30 seats per show, so we can take 150 folks. There's still tickets available. If you want to bring a friend, if you want to bring your PLC, your English or math department, if you want to bring, we have a group that is bringing their students to the show. Just, you can, do we have the the link for it? Are you trying to find it?
Yeah,
If we
I don't know
don't,
where
just
it
shoot me
is.
an email. We're going to try and get the link in the description, and we'll put it in the chat as soon as my wife finds it.
It is not on your own link tree. She might.
So
It's on the
oh, it's on
rules.
Shivvy's. Go to Shivvy's
okay.
and get it. So that's what we can do, and it's just going to be great. Like if we've never met, we can meet in real life, which is always super fun. So yeah, please be a part of it if you can be a part of it. It's built for you. We're trying to create opportunities for teachers to be the best they can be, and I'm telling you, this is going to be one of those events. We were even saying this morning on the meeting, this feels like a mini conference that we're pulling off over these 2 days.
Well, it'd be really fun because are we allowed to say that? Yeah,
You can't say who's going to be. You can talk about knowledge, but you can't. We're not talking about the guests yet.
No, but I'm saying that knowledge is going to have a real conference, like an actual conference. It's
Knowledge is going. Yeah. Plus, this is like not out to the public really, but I mean on Spotify it is and Apple. But there will be we're going to do a conference in Atlanta and one in Los Angeles. So
it's really
people have
so
to fly
much
all the way across the country. Pinter can just pick one.
so much fun stuff, so much exciting stuff for,
Yes.
and I think for teachers.
For
and-
teachers, but I can't believe I just cracked my back on. There's my ADD though. So much stuff for teachers by teachers. I'm telling you, this is gonna be one of those experiences that when you leave the taping, you are going to be fired up for school on Monday because you will know that even in that room, you were amongst your people. You were amongst the teachers that do things, see things like you do. And that is special, man. So yeah, with that, are you still looking for that?
Yeah, how do I copy it and send it to myself?
I will
Copy email and then just text it to me because I'll get it on
Okay.
here. Okay, are you ready for a question? Can you
Yeah.
multitask? I know that's hard for you.
go for it. I'm trying.
Okay, Ruth is up first asking, system budget cuts are happening again. What options are available to teachers who are thinking of leaving this time? Ruth, I'm wondering, do you mean like leaving education as a whole or just leaving your school?
I can speak to both of those while we were waiting. Because of budget cuts, Ruth, I would say I used to really believe that I would never leave the classroom no matter what. But I think that was because I was very young and I was somewhat naive. Naive how? Because when I had kids and my son had a speech delay until he was 4. My son didn't speak any words until he was 4 years old.
Anything understandable.
No, I mean, we used to know what he had like his own language. We used to understand it, and then I stopped understanding it. Like I can't go back to those videos now and remember what he's saying.
No.
But that being said, I didn't have the money to hire the people I needed to hire to meet those needs. And the public school that we were at didn't have any sort of intervention for that. And as my kids have grown and have needed different stuff, I found that I just like, there were years when it was like, how are we pulling off Christmas? How are we pulling off back to school clothes? How are we going to make sure that we have enough groceries? How are we going to make sure that we can pay for someone's class trip, or if they want to play soccer or whatever it is, or there's a dance coming up, how are we going to get them clothes? And what I learned was that I foolishly worked for so little money for so long that, when I say foolish, it's because I couldn't take care of my own family. And now, look, I think it's 7. I have a list of values in my life. And this is it. I talk about this in the classroom management workshop, but and I also talk about when I go to schools. Someone taught me that you need to first list your values. So like, what are your values? For me, I'm going to get back to your question too. This is a long way around. For me, it's God, then me, then my wife, then my kids, then school, then my business, then I don't know if it's money or friends comes first. Money might come first, then it's friends. So in that, each week I don't, this isn't like a heavy duty track. I just look at them and I just like figure like what I like, am I really, I look back at my week, did I really hold God first? Did I put God first before everything? And if I didn't, I just need to reevaluate my week next week. You can't ever hit all the values. So some weeks I might be heavier on loving on me. Some weeks I might be heavier on loving on my kids. But if I'm like, yo, if my wife is number 3, I need to make sure that I'm loving on her more than my kids, because my kids benefit from an overflow of the love mom and dad have for one another. So it is, but if I look at how little money I used to work for, it's like I was putting everybody up, because I was doing that because kids, I felt like the kids need me. I need to be here. When I put the students above me, that's putting them above me, above my wife, above my kids. I can't, that's not sustainable. My family doesn't live off the benefit of my love for my students. So with that being said, I need to go to a place where I can afford to teach. This isn't a hobby. It is also a job. And now it's a job with meaning and it's a job with purpose, but I cannot afford to work somewhere where I can't, it's at literally, because I end up spending my own money. So it's literally costing me money to work there. I just won't do that anymore. And so that's when I went to West Philadelphia and I got a significant pay increase to teach in Philadelphia. Like I'd say I almost close to doubled my income. And it's really something when you have like, now that wasn't even enough money for my lifestyle because my wife was still staying home with my kids, but it was like such a breath, and it paid all year round. I got paychecks all summer, which was unbelievable for us as a family. So yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of related to a follow-up for her.
Okay.
Related to system budget cuts, how can I encourage my teachers who need to leave their schools?
Because you need to put you first. You can't, if the car doesn't have gas, you can't go anywhere. And quite literally, there were times when I would go to school and I didn't have gas money. I was like looking in the couch cushions for quarters to get enough gas to get to school, where I was on free and reduced lunch. Like no nonsense. Like I would eat the lunch at school regularly because we didn't have food in the house for me to do it. And when I think back, that's so
when you worked at Camden,
absurd.
It was really difficult financially for us because they paid so little. And that was the big reason that you left. That was the biggest reason that you left. And that was a really hard decision.
Yeah.
It felt like you were selling out. Like you go through the whole thing. Like you feel like you're selling out. You feel like you were abandoning the kids and all of that sort of stuff. And you have to realize like it came to a point of realizing like, yeah, but we're really suffering because we're not making what we need. And I'm going to take it the God route, but it's also remembering that like God will take care of those kids.
Yes.
Like someone new will come. Maybe they're single, maybe they're just out of college and they're like on fire for education, but they don't need as much financially because they don't have children, they don't have a spouse, like that sort of stuff. So it's like kind of letting go a little bit of that also, I think, and remembering that if you are a person of faith and you are in this position, and Ruth, I know you're a person of faith, but I don't know about your colleagues, but that God will take care of what he needs. He is the one who takes care of it all and solves it and, all the things.
But to that, I knew in a moment last year when I was helping out Marley's school, her middle school, I knew in a moment who I was there for. When where we live now at the school that I'm going to work at next year, I knew in a moment that like who I was here for. I just like, there are kids
everywhere.
And you don't have to live paycheck to paycheck trying to figure out how you're going to eat tonight or eating garbage because you can't afford like healthy food just to help kids. No matter what school you go to, you will know if you're relational, you're going to know in an instant who you're there for. because all kids need good teachers. And that is something I didn't realize when I started out.
I love, there's going to be a question that's related to that, which I
Okay,
love
cool.
in a little bit. But Kim is up next asking, what are your favorite small group or partner activities to get students collaborating with each other and having academic discussions?
That's a good question. Small group partner activities. So when I think small groups, it could be a lot of different stuff. It could be games. So it might be like playing Quizzo. We do like groups of 4 and we play Quizzo as a review. We do, things I talk about a lot are like working on Play-Doh together, working on with Legos together, creating. We will sometimes make like giant Pokemon cards. So it's like basically like making a poster, but it's more fun. Someone draws the image, someone's doing the research for different components of what's happening, or they just divide up those components. So someone's doing like so if we're doing Pokemon cards, we do it with the Odyssey. So you pick a villain or a monster from the story, and then just like on a Pokemon card, it's like, what are their powers? What is their background? Like that kind of a thing. Other ones, I love doing small reading circles with classes that can handle it, where I put together different readers, and then I don't do the one where they necessarily like all have different jobs. I want them to work on something together, because I think the different jobs, I don't know, I think that it doesn't always work for me, but maybe that's because of the level of reader that I'm working with. But I love having kids annotate together. I love having kids like have mini discussions about what we just read. And then when we come back, you can't tell me what you said. I want you to tell me what someone else shared, because it teaches active listening. That's what comes to my head right away. I'm curious what the rest of everyone thinks about that. What are some of your, maybe Kim, put in your grade level too, because that might help people out as well.
All
They're
right.
going to share that.
Okay, Tristan is up asking, do you ever not get a bit nervous when trying something different? I did something that went excellent, and all the data suggested that it would, but I was still nervous before I did it.
Yes. So Tristan, for me, I have learned that my best ideas are the ones that keep me up at night and give me a stomach ache. That is like, I've just trained myself to know that that's the telltale sign that we're on to something awesome. That, one of the quotes I give when I do talks is Jeff Foxworthy, the comedian, says your life needs a few hold your nose and jump moments. You're not sure how it's going to turn out. You're not sure what's on the other side of this, but I'll tell you what, it's either going to make an awesome experience or an awesome story. And I love stories, so I'll go with it, because it's either going to be, this is great, or it makes the story of like, bro, let me tell you about this time I tried something and it was horrible. I love that too. So it happens to me regularly. My conversation around that is like, whatever that force is, we'll say this, whatever that force is that is trying to maybe convince me otherwise, right? I don't know if that's the devil all the time. I don't know if it's there's a great book called The War of Art, War of Art, where the author talks about this thing called the resistance. And the resistance is that force that you feel when you know you have to sit down and do the writing for the novel you want to read or want to write, but it is like, look at this thing, go do this thing. Let's do this instead. Let's try this instead. It's almost like that nervous part of your brain, that lizard part of your brain, is trying to get you to not do the thing that's the most important. So it's fighting against the resistance. And what I tell the resistance is, y'all can keep pushing all you want. You're wasting your time. Like, I'm going to do this whether it works or not, because that's the kind of teacher I want to be. I want to exercise the muscle of, no matter what, no matter if it's going to work out or not, no matter if it's crazy or not, no matter if I'm like, man, this might be the dumbest thing I ever did. I want to exercise that muscle so much that people know me for it and I know myself for it. where I'm not afraid to do it. I'm going to show up anyway and try and crush this thing. And then what I found is that you just get comfortable in the failure. You just learn how to pick it back up and keep moving. And so that's what I'm trying to do with that.
I love the Myron Golden quote, all work works.
Yes.
Whether it worked or it failed, it's going to provide some level of work for you because you're going to get intel from what didn't work and intel from what worked. And all work works.
It's either working on you, it either works or it's working on you.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going off of.
All right. Our
son is playing a rather heated Minecraft battle across the hallway.
No, he's playing Roblox.
Oh, yeah. We're not grown.
All right. Village teacher is asking, now that you have some experience teaching in New Mexico, what advice do you have for tackling the students' apathy for learning and productive struggle?
So the student apathy here is a little different. The school that I'll be working at next year and that I've been subbing at is a pretty good mix of kids that are well, I won't say they are wealthy, right? I'm going to go George Lucas on this. George Lucas famously told his kids, "You're not rich, I'm rich."
I love that.
And so they come from wealthy families, or they are, I don't want to say the opposite.
Well, you have kids who have
had real spectrum
trauma, right? Or even from group.
But I don't want to loop all that in. So it's like a lot of kids from trauma, a lot of students that are in group homes. Orphanages are still a thing here in New Mexico. I didn't even know that was still a thing until I moved here. But because in the city we just have foster care. But
so you have the whole spectrum.
There's a real spectrum there. So the apathy comes from different places, right? So it's either I don't need this because I'm just going to inherit. Like, I think kids think, I don't know that their parents are telling them this or their grandparents or something like that. I think it's like kids just kind of figuring out, like,
I think kids think like, oh, we're rich. And that's why I love
I already made it. What am I doing?
Of like, no, I am well off or wealthy or rich or whatever you want to say. But you are not. You are just working it out. But I think sometimes kids assume.
So this is one of my favorite things that happened. A kid that I really, and I'm going to say on the front end, is someone who I've built quite a good relationship with over a very short period of time. I think he's a really wonderful young man. But the first day I met him, I go, "Hey, what's your name?" And he tells me his name, and he goes, "Do you know my grandfather?" I said, "What? Who? What?" He goes, "Do you know my grandfather?" I said, "No." "Do you know my grandfather?" And he was like, "What?" And I go, "Exactly." And then he tells me his grandfather's name, and I go, Charles Reynolds Sr. What are we doing here? So it turns out his grandfather is quite wealthy and very, very well connected and well known in the neighborhood. So it was just kind of like this weird moment. Flip side, so you have those kids, and then flip side, you have kids that are like, "What are we doing this for? This is dumb. None of my family's ever gone to school." To me, it is always the long way around. I can explain why we're doing stuff, and that helps. I can explain why this lesson is happening, why we learn history, why we learn English, why we're reading this book, why we learn to write, why we learn to read, why we learn to have conversations in class, why I ask you so many things about yourself. That's part of it, right? Is really being able to explain everything from why we're learning this to why these are the rules, policies, procedures, rhythms, and all that stuff. That helps. What moves kids the most is what I refer to in workshops as like getting the kids' minds through their hearts. I have to connect with you through the heart first, because what I want to see is, what do you want to do? What kind of life do you want? And not just you. What blessing are you looking to be in your family and or community? So if your church is important to you, if it hurts your heart that your grandma has to work 2 jobs to keep the lights on, and she's doing it all herself and she's raising you, if you want to have your little brother or sister not go through the same things that you went through, if you want to be able to pay for private school for them one day, if you want to, have your mom not take 7 buses to get to work, it is in no matter where I am, it's catching a vision of what kids have for their lives and then helping them to realize that they can be the one who changes that. They can change the trajectory of their family tree forever. Now that feels like a heavy burden, but when we're talking about, where I spoke yesterday in Illinois was at a conference for children that are at risk, right? So it's all folks, the Illinois Coalition of folks that are working with at-risk children. And what I think we need to understand, and this sounds a little cheesy, but is that kids that are at risk aren't just homeless students. They're not just kids that are growing up really dealing with some of like these incredible traumas. They're not growing up not having anything to eat. I think some kids are at risk of perpetuating the cycle of all kinds of horrible things on the other end, right? Of like not giving back to their community, of being a jerk, like of being racist, of being like, there's all these other things. But, one of the things I said that was kind of cheesy, but I liked it, was our students have to understand that they are also at risk of being awesome. That it's that, I don't know if it's a quote or a poem that, what is your deepest fear? What is your real deepest fear? And to break that down, it's not that you're not able, not qualified, that you're not enough. Your deepest fear is that you are. Because when you realize that you are, now you're really put on the hook. And I think our kids are playing a game a lot of times where they're trying to just not be on the hook. But you are at risk of being incredible. You're at risk at changing your family's trajectory of the family tree forever, man. Like you can be the one that stops the cycle and that graduates from high school, that goes on to college if needed, that takes care of your family, that stays together with your spouse, that has wonderful children, that grow up in a full house where they like are loved. And I tell my kids all the time, I think this is Maya Angelou quote, that she says that the sun should rise and set when your children enter and exit a room. That I want my kids to grow up in that level of love. And not that I grew up in, I had a lot of stuff going on when I was a kid. I don't want to compare it to anyone else's, but our kids don't know, and they know what we came from because we told them. But
they
to a large degree,
they
just grow up in love. They just are, to a degree that I'm going to share this story with you. Because I think it's so powerful, and you don't know where, again, the ripple effect, you don't know where it happens. I'm having a meeting at my kid's school the other day, and a young woman who's a junior, we were talking about all this different stuff, and she goes, "Yeah, but Mr. Reynolds, your family's different." I said, what is that supposed to mean? And she said, "I noticed that the first day you guys came in for a tour, I heard your son tell your daughter that he loved her." And she starts getting filled up, getting emotional in this meeting that I was having with her about something completely, about a class that I'm helping out with on the side there. And she said, she starts crying and she goes, "Your family's just different. You can feel it when you guys are together." And it was like, what? Like, I don't know. I'm focused on my own kids. I don't know how other people are perceiving that. And I'm not trying to put my family up on some pedestal like we're perfect. But when kids realize they can have that, I think that fights apathy more than anything else. And here's why. Because we're not always willing to do for ourselves. But if you say that you want to help your grandma out, really? And are you going to let math get in front of that? Are you going to get a 5-paragraph essay in front of you, like being able to provide for your siblings when you get out of high school? Like, now it's game on, and that changes things for kids.
I think I want to say, being a side watcher of your experience in Philadelphia and Camden to Philadelphia to here, what advice do you have for tackling students' apathy for learning and productive struggle? It's the same thing that it has been in all the schools. It is building relationships. It is showing that you care about them. It is, and then the apathy for learning, it's explaining and showing that learning is important and why it's important. I think a lot of children don't see the value in understanding why learning is important,
Yes.
why the schoolwork is important, why they have to do all of this stuff, right? It's unconnected to the real world. So you it's the same methods at all three different locations.
Yes.
It is building relationships, building that foundation of just getting to know you, just showing that I care through asking questions. And then it's showing that learning is important, why that's important. And I think that naturally just seems to take care of some of the like
Yeah.
productive struggles, I guess you
Yeah.
would call them. I think
Teenagers.
yeah, I think it takes away some of that, or at least lessens it, right? You're still going to be a teenager who doesn't want to do the work. You're still going to be the teenager who potentially rolls their eyes, or like, like that's just normal behavior, I think, for adolescents. So I won't say it just disappears, but it is really the same thing. And it really just comes to, it is connecting the heart and then you get to the mind.
Yes.
It's the same tactic. Just with a new bunch of kids. All right, I wasn't prepared.
Sorry. Hey, you know what I haven't done in a while? We can sing a song.
No, we don't want
Damn it.
you to do that.
Crushing my dreams.
I hope I didn't pass Dewey's question. I know it was in there. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Dewey Down is saying, am I misguided as just a teacher at my school, thinking I can help change the culture of my school? Is it a losing battle? Should I just stay in my lane?
Probably.
What does that
Hell
mean?
no. So
I was like, what
kind of show is this?
I'm like, that's a lame answer.
No, and here's why. Being authentically who you are has negative repercussions all the time.
Mm.
That your joy, public happiness, being who you are, whatever that is authentically, is going to upset other people. It might even upset some students. I'm not there for them. I'm there who I'm there for, right? It's like when the Bible says, my sheep will know my voice. Your sheep know your voice, right? There's kids that will love what you do. There are parents that will love what you do that you'll never even hear from. There are other teachers that will be inspired by what you do. So your job is to be who you're called to be for those you are called to be it for. And then anyone that doesn't like it can go somewhere, do your thing. Like I'm not here to homogenize myself and my gifts so that we're all like doing the same thing. That's not even fun. So what I want to do is play my part in this band that is the school, right? So that's what I'm doing. And so should you not do it? I think you can change culture because you're being that person for someone. Now, for me, that is my group of misfits that, I would eat lunch with every single day in my classroom. It was for my small circle of teachers that even my circle of teachers, I can tell you, I think they saw the value in it, but I know for certain that my best friend Cho didn't think I was funny most of the time. Most of the time she told me I was stupid and told me it's not, why do you do this? Why are you so dumb? Why do you do all this dumb stuff? And I think that was her way of telling me that she loved me. That's what I used to tell her all the time. And I'm like, I heard what you just said. You just said you loved me, but with a frown. And there were folks that I worked with that would roll their eyes at me all the time. But we all had our own part to play. And we all knew why we were there. So it's coming together and not always, sometimes I had folks that were going to dress up with me, do dumb stuff with me, play along, like go along with what I was doing. And then but they knew that was my part. And then they did their own thing in their kind of part. So I think you don't know who you're there for. I'll tell you this too. So when I was speaking yesterday, there was this large, well-dressed man sitting dead center front of the stage. And my man the whole time was like that, just posted up. Those of you who can't see me are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or something. Arms crossed, completely stoic, watching me. But I'm like, this dude is unbreakable. Like, I'm like trying to get a laugh out of him. And he becomes I can't stand that I do this too. Those folks become my gauge sometimes, right? And this is advice that I wouldn't even give my advice I give other people is like, look for the other students. Don't focus on the one kid that just hates your class. And I do the complete opposite when I'm speaking. I have to be very cognizant of it. So I'm watching this guy. I get done. I get a standing ovation. This dude stands up, looks me dead in the eye and goes, way to rep Philly. I said, come again? He goes, way to rep Philly. Like, he had loved my talk. And I was just like, oh, snap. But you don't know who's taking it in or how they're taking it in. Not everyone is going to show. And I learned this from my wife. Not everyone's going to go, that was great. Great work. That was so funny. I love when you do that. But they are doing it. And I'll tell you what, I think that those folks are, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, are living off the benefits. They're living off the repercussions of your joy, because you're making the school a better place. You're putting better vibe out there. You're connecting with kids and making them smile and laugh and making kids want to be at school. Never stop what you're doing, because you don't know where that ends. So just keep it is. We are really going full Bible today, but it is. It's the story of the talents that Jesus tells, the parable of the talents. And if you've not read that, it's worth going and reading. Even if you're not a Bible person, it's really like a story about, if you just hide the gifts that God gave you, like, what do you do if you just hide gifts in general? It's such a waste, right? Like, use what you've been given to the highest level that you can use it, because otherwise it's a waste. So don't ever stop, no matter what anyone else is doing.
But I think this goes back to that value system. Be mindful of that. You cannot kill yourself for, like,
yes,
you have to make sure you're taking care of you, right? So you can keep being the awesome you. And I would say don't put all of it on your shoulders to be the one who's going to change the culture. You just be the different one, and people will start to gravitate towards that.
You will both attract your people and push away those that don't like you, and both are good.
Yeah. And so, and know when it's time to leave your school, if necessary. If you need to, if you're feeling that.
Yeah. If it's a completely toxic environment,
right.
That is always on the table.
But keep being you. Keep like reflecting that love that you have for your students, and joy and happiness. Don't hide that.
The feeling I got when I went in, I talked about going back to the classroom, right?
Yeah, here you did.
Okay. Mm-hmm. When I went into that meeting and they were like, we just want you to, like, you can do anything you want. Like, that feeling of having, I can't even underscore it enough, what it feels like to be appreciated, to be understood, to have folks be like, no, we just want you to come in and do your thing. To have admin that support, and this isn't the first place that has happened, like having admin that supports you. It is like a weight has been lifted and you didn't realize you could float before. So it's not even like you're just have less weight. It's like, oh, I didn't realize I was built to float or built to fly. Because I believe I can fly.
Okay.
I believe.
I mean, everybody said they want a little song.
I can touch the sky.
But Taylor Edwards is up next, asking, what strategies do you have for engaging students with writing in a social studies standpoint? We do lots of discussions and argumentative debates, but when they lose their enthusiasm, but they lose their enthusiasm when writing.
So. One, I'd have to come up with, Taylor, why do we write? Like, why are we writing this stuff? What is the value in this? What are you, because look, I'll tell you what, if I'm thinking about it, one of the reasons I have my students write is I want them to fine tune what they're saying. That when you're talking, you can read people's facial features or like their expressions. You can read their body language. We can kind of like go back and forth, and it's like writing something it forces you to organize your thoughts in a very coherent way.
Mm.
It really forces you to call upon not just your natural charisma or your natural ability to speak, but pull on things like your vocabulary, your which I was going to say your word choice, but it's the same thing. It I think it helps you to fine tune that piece. And how can we do that? One of my favorite scenes from a movie ever is a river runs through in that opening scene where the boys are coming downstairs with like some piece of writing they had to do, and their father would grade it up and he would go, make it half, write it half.
Mm.
And so they had to keep paring it down where it's like, don't use all the words. It's how do you come up with something that is like real, like it's dynamite, right? It's small, but really packs a punch. I want my students to be able to organize their brains like that. And I think that is not something that's going away. Even if you're using ChatGPT, right? You have to come up with the right prompt. You have to know how to ask a question. You have to be very clear on what it is you're looking for. Otherwise, I mean, I'm sure tons of people use chat and don't do that. And they get some crappy response, or it's not quite clear. It's not exactly what they wanted, but it's good enough. But you have to get your brain around that task. I think that's part of it. So it's part of it is like being able to really, really explain that, and then maybe create writing that is going to morph into something that is attractive to them, right? So are they writing a script? Are they writing, maybe it's a script for TikTok, maybe it's a script for a YouTube video, maybe it's a script for a reality show that has, I'm thinking like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So we're going to have like historical figures. If there was a Real Housewives of Mount Vernon, what would that have looked like back in the day? And, Real Housewives of Philadelphia during 1776, what did that look like, right? So you can have some fun with that too, but it's based on this writing first. And then I find a way to get kids to do things they don't want to do is to have the next level be something fun. Because the writing part is hard. But the other thing too there is, Taylor, really getting kids to understand that everything you want is on the other in your life that's worth a damn is on the other side of hard. Everything. And that is a message that I have to communicate again and again and again to students, because I need them to understand that, like, want to be a good communicator, want to be a good spouse, want to have, muscles, like want to have money. It's all on the other side of hard. Every blessed thing that you want to do. And even if the money comes easy, being able to manage that money is hard. So like, what are you doing? So this is hard. Good. We're practicing hard. Hard is good for us to learn. Hard is good for us to push through. And people in your life that are not, and I'm not saying this is I'll just say it like this, that aren't living the life that they quite dreamed of. Many times, and I'm not here to judge anyone, so I'm not going to make this a blanket statement. Many times it's because folks haven't learned how to do the hard stuff. So they end up settling for the mediocre crap. And if you want to have the most okayest life that you could ever have, and just be like, hey man, how's the last 20, go to 20-year reunion, how you been doing? Okay. How's life? It's okay. Who'd you marry? Someone who's pretty okay. I have okay kids and an okay dog. And
my house is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm good. I'm okay. It's like,
I think this comes back to the why is so important, because you have to say, like, we're doing the hard thing and not everything is going to be fun. And we have to explain that to our kids a lot.
Regularly.
Like, not everything. And you have to remember that they're kids, right? So hard is new for them. They haven't experienced, school is the first time it's stressing a lot of kids and really pushing them to grow. And that's part of the process, right?
But I'll tell you what I noticed in Brody. So my son and I on Friday was two years of not missing a workout. It was the anniversary, right? That's 5 days a week for 2 years. That was moving to New Mexico. That's people being sick, people dying, all kinds of crazy stuff happening, right? And did not miss a workout. I can see it in him that he has an
built
extra
a tenacity
level
of
grit from being able to do hard stuff.
I agree.
So
because school does not come easy to him.
no,
I will say
I do science homework today.
he
I'm
has.
gonna do science homework
What is
today.
he doing? Oh, physics.
I'm gonna take a walk and play Fortnite. Need some dip.
But he it does not come easy to him, and he works so hard. He's just pretty impressive. I'll just leave it there. But
I did a good
part of
job
that
on that
is
one.
the grit, right?
You're welcome, babe.
Oh yeah, you and God and Birdie himself.
You're welcome. Next question.
All right, Kim is up next asking, any tips for improving students' memory retention? My students understand the material one day, but forget it the next. I know repetition helps, but how can I make it fun?
Yes, so I could just give you the answer, Kim, but I'm going to tell you to go check out Jim Quick.
Oh, I was hoping.
KWIK, I think it is. He is brilliant.
That's like his specialty.
Yeah.
Is like, how do you?
He had working memory problems when he was young. Did he get in a car accident or something?
He did.
Like that?
He had an accident, and it like messed up some stuff in his brain neurologically, like that he had a difficulty with memory retention.
Yeah.
And he became like the guy
He
through
is
it.
the guy. His videos are great. You can find him right on YouTube or listen to a podcast with him before you like just launch off into one of his books. I use a lot of his stuff in my talks when talking about like working with young people, especially like neurodivergent students. And he shares like research-based ways for you to help young people to remember stuff. So actually, when I used to have my students would have to it was part of the school's curriculum that they had to memorize Shakespeare. So it was like between, I don't know, it was 15 to like 35 lines of Shakespeare. And I would have moms come in and tell me, you can't make my kid do this. There's no way they can do it. I used to tell every single mom, I don't care who your kid is, they're going to do it, because I've been doing this for a long time. And I've never had someone not do it, because I'm going to show them the strategies of how to do it. And it's some, are kind of logical. It's like having kids write it down, having kids translate it into words that they understand, having kids set it to a beat, having kids listen to it over and over again, having a real meaning behind it or an action behind it. It's really helping them. It's teaching them some of the skills to be able to do that are just going to benefit them across the board. I don't know if anyone can hear our kids, but they must be having it in there. I told them to keep it down.
I don't think they're that loud.
Sometimes microphones pick up more than what you think.
Just interested if you can hear our
kids.
And
the poor damn dog, he's probably laying right out the door. He was whining.
I was going to say, when we started, I heard him at the door going.
He breathes under the door. He just like he's there. Sounds like a small whale.
Okay. I think that was our last question.
That's fine. We're almost at an hour.
Yeah.
Cool.
We did.
Yeah. Chris Carson, I'm still going to hit you up. I saw your text last night, but I was taking off on an airplane.
Oh my gosh, with 1,001 delays.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't drive
in the airport yesterday.
CJ goes, oh, I'm getting on the plane now. I go, okay, all right, I'll leave. And because it's like an hour and a half away. And I am 15 minutes away from the airport. And he goes, oh, we're taking off now. I was like, that means that I get to just sit in the parking lot for like an hour.
Oh, the great thing about small airports is there's no wait for security ever. Even though I have TSA pre-check. The downside of it is there's like a plane a day that comes in, and then it's a nightmare. So listen, gang, it is the season, right? For a lot of things, right? Speaking is, everyone's planning their speaking for the summer and for next year. If your school, even if you've never had a speaker ever come to your school, right? This is a conversation I just had with the school. A small Christian school reached out to me from Arkansas. They've never had a speaker. Just reach out. Let's figure it out. It is not about budgets for me. It is about having an impact. It can't cost me anything, but it is about having an impact on teachers and then having an impact on students. I'll give you the email that you need to write, right? I'll give you the template. I'll give you the brochure. I'll give you the video. You can send it all to your admin, and it'll be smooth as can be. Just get me on the phone with them, and we'll try and figure something out that's going to help your students in your school community. So even if you've never had someone before, our schools never thought they could afford speakers, but we can figure something out, right? Whether it's virtual or in person. If you want to be a part of the Rules to Engagement show, if you're in or around Los Angeles, or if you're flying in from Ohio, you can, there'll be a link in the description box below on any platform that you're consuming this on. Please click the link, or you can contact me directly. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring your kids, bring your students, bring your, we have a whole school that's bringing a whole class of students that's coming out to this, which is going to be awesome energy. Bring your PLC, bring your English department. See if you can get PD hours for it, man. Like, try and hook it up. It's completely for free. I promise you, it's going to be awesome. So just let us know what we can do to make this happen, so that you can get there.
Someone said that they live in Illinois. Where did you fly out of?
Oh, I flew out of Bloomington Airport.
Oh, that's it.
I'm coming back to Illinois. It looks like I got an email this morning. I got to contact them today. I'll be back in Illinois somewhere else. Forget how big Illinois. I mean, Illinois is enormous, man. I think I'm in Western Illinois.
Yeah, I can't remember that.
So, but I'll make an announcement about that too. So yeah, let me know. And look, if your school can, I've had schools too where, like, if y'all can get me while I'm somewhere else, like,
yes,
you don't got to pay for the travel either, right? And that's a chunk off of the bottom line as well. So I pass the savings on to you. And with that, anything else, wife?
Nope, that's it.
Cool.
Have a great week.
Guys, you're awesome. Have an awesome week. And that's it. Peace.